Hello, Janesville, and welcome back to Park Place Views, the monthly program that aims to keep residents informed by highlighting the people, places, and partners of the City of Janesville. As always, this program is brought to you by the City of Janesville and JATV Media Services. I'm your host, Nick Faust, the assistant to the City Manager in the City Manager's office, and in last month's episode, we sat down with the Carrie Jacobs Bond Questers. As we celebrated the birthday of one of Janesville's most famous native daughters, it was fantastic to have the Questers join me to talk all about the famous gallant lady of song. If you're interested in watching that show or any past episode of the program, they're all available to watch on the city's website or JATV's YouTube page. Today, I'm looking forward to being joined by IT Director Bryan Langer. Director Langer came to the city in February with an impressive background in information technology and network management, including 13 years as a network manager for Mercy Health. Thanks for joining us today, Bryan.
Thanks, Nick.
Now, before we start, I know I introduced you a little bit, but I wanted to give you a chance to maybe tell the viewers a bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a resident of Janesville for the last 26 years. Both my sons were born and raised here. I've been in IT now for 37 years, and I started way back in high school doing programming for my parents, for their businesses. I went to Arizona State University for computer systems engineering. I completed my degree through the United States Air Force, where when I got out, I worked as a IT tech for the nuclear field, for a command and control center.
Wow.
From there, I opened my own consulting firm for networking, and then I did consulting for a firm here in Wisconsin, in Beloit, where I did consulting for GM, school districts, a lot of big companies around the area. And from there, I went on to be the information technology officer for Alpine Bank, Belvedere National Bank, and Leland National Bank. And as you said, I then went to Mercy Health for 13 years, had a great career there, and then came to the City of Janesville in February.
Wow. So certainly a tenured history of everything IT, and you've really probably seen an incredible, momentous amount of change in that time in the field. I mean, over the course of nearly 4 decades. And I think many folks, Bryan, probably aren't familiar with just everything the city's IT office does, because it is kind of behind the scenes in nature, so to speak. You know, we only notice a lot of IT things when they go wrong on occasion. But what are some of the functions and daily tasks of the IT office?
Well, I would say our main function is to enable the City of Janesville employees to do their job to the best of their ability. We're really there to make sure that everything they need are right at their fingertips. On a day-to-day basis, we're dealing with everything from replacing a mouse to system crashes, so it could vary quite a bit.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and it's and we'll get into this a little more, Bryan, but for folks to realize it's such a diverse swath of users, I think, when you think about everything from A to Z and what the city does and all the different systems the city uses, that there's probably, fair to say, never a dull moment when it comes to keeping everybody up and running on the day-to-day. And I think if we do kind of want to put into perspective a little more some of the different equipment and technology that you folks use, could you give us some background just on some of the systems the city uses?
Sure. Most of IT is centered around information, so we gather a large amount of information daily that is digested for the public. It's digested by the individuals at the city, and we have to house all that information. So we have a large data center that we keep that in. We have to make sure that that is maintained and it's backed up and it's available. And then we have to be able to get it out to the public or out to our staff, which could be out in the field. It could be a police officer in the field. It could be fire department out in the field. It could be public works, transit, and then all the fixed facilities. And then with all that data floating around out there, we have to secure it.
Yeah.
So we have to watch the cybersecurity and then maintain a good relationship with our staff and other people so that we can help them out when things go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and you folks maintain just a huge network and so much equipment. And I understand that you do so very efficiently with a relatively, I think, small team when compared to peer organizations. I think that would be fair to say. Just how big is the city's IT office, and how does your team get it all done?
Our team is composed of 6 full-time staff members, including myself. We also have an intern. So our team is relatively small, especially for the large network and everything that we do support. Typically in a large company, you'll have individuals that they'll be specialized, or they'll have a very focused task that they perform, and that's all they do. As having a smaller group, we're tasked more to be a jack of all trades. We have to be able to touch everything on a daily basis, and we have to be able to redirect ourselves in order to bend to whatever the need is at that time within the city.
Yeah, and something like you had said, everything from public safety to our wastewater treatment plant, which involves a great deal of technology. Those things run around the clock. And what challenges does that then present to your team?
Well, I think the biggest is with having a small staff, that again goes back to we can't really house a 24/7 staff, not with 6 people. And we have to be able to have dedication from our team, which has been really great, that they'll respond even when it's not necessarily their time or on the weekend, to make sure that we're still supporting the needs of the city. A big part of that is sharing information amongst one another and just working as a team to get things accomplished.
Yeah, a lot of collaboration and a lot of dedication from your staff. And Bryan, as we were talking about at the beginning of the program, technology changes quite quickly. How do you in your role help us as an organization anticipate future tech needs?
It's really built around how we need to supply it to the consumer, which is our staff. If there's certain needs, we look at the technology and what will support it. I think going forward, a lot of the technology that's coming out, you hear a lot about artificial intelligence coming up, things like that. That's going to play a major focus into what we do. And it's going to allow us with a smaller staff to do more, to be able to have eyes-on systems 24/7, respond quickly. But overall, the technology will develop as the needs develop.
Yeah. So it's an ever-changing sort of landscape that you intake and adjust to and go from there. And the IT office plays a big role in implementing tech projects that come up and come through different department divisions and offices. One such project, quite timely, is My JTS. JTS's new mobile fare collection system that will be coming out pretty much this month. What went into that project?
IT helped set up the whole system as it came on board. A lot of what we provide is communications back and forth to buses in the field. So they have to be able to get information on the riders, on making sure that their gen cards are working in order to get onto the bus. So we've provided that communication back and forth in real time to the buses and back to the facility. And then we also provide the information for tracking those buses in the field, just so that the public can actually look on our website and see where the buses are at any time. And then the managers on the other end can manage them and make sure that they're on route, that they're on time, and make any amendments that they need to in time.
They have to, and you're also assisting on another pretty big community project that I bet our viewers have heard of, and that's the Future Woodman Center. That space is going to be a multi-use facility with conference space and sports space. How do you project IT infrastructure needs for something like that?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited about the project. I think it's going to be a great benefit to the community. For IT, a lot of what's going to go into that facility are already things that we're providing on a daily basis. It's just on a much larger scale. And you think about it like at home, you get 4 or 5 people on your wireless network and everything starts slowing down. Well, we have to be able to accommodate hundreds of people in large events. So, and there'll also be a lot of streaming, I imagine, coming out of that too. You'll have Jets games, you'll have all the other sports events that will be placed. They want to have the ability to stream those out live. And then you'll have people coming in for conventions or meetings, and they'll have large swaths of people that all need to access their email and things like that. So it's really making sure it's scaled properly.
Yeah, and that's certainly no easy task, but it's great to have you folks on board with that and to just hear how everyone's coming together to kind of work on that project, because like you said, that would be a game changer for our community, and we're very excited to see where that project goes. A big part also of technology is making service experiences for our residents more efficient, and that's kind of touched upon as well in the MyJTS project. But I also understand that you've been working with staff in building division on an online permitting system. What's going into that project?
Well, I'm sure as a lot of the public has seen already, a lot of the services that they used to have to come to City Hall for information, just help getting certain things done, are now being provided online.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be any different with this. We're going to start providing services where licensing and permitting can be all done online. Think about a large contractor who has several permits that they're following on several properties. They'll be able to track, pay for, apply for all these permits and licensing that they'll need. And it'll also be publicly available to those individuals that are doing it on their own as well.
Yeah, and that, like you said, a night and day difference for folks when it comes to getting their projects done, getting interactions that they need to have with the city in a way that is responsive and easy for them to do. It is great to hear, and a huge resource I also want to highlight, sticking on the third floor of City Hall, is GIS, which is a super interactive mapping tool that our community can actually access right on the city's website. Is that right?
Correct. The GIS program is if anybody's used Google Maps, they'll be familiar with it. It looks very familiar. It provides you with a real-time map of the city, and you can click on any property within that map, and it'll provide you instant feedback on any information we put in there, who owns the property, taxes on the property, things like that. That data is also going to expand as we keep expanding our information technology, what we can add. So that'll be an evolving project where you'll actually get more and more out of it over time.
Yeah, and I encourage folks, again, we'll definitely have the URL somewhere linked through this episode, but to get on there and play around with that, because it is super powerful, and folks really don't realize all it can really do. And Bryan, we're also then approaching a presidential election year in 2024. And one of the names of that particular game as a local government is ensuring cybersecurity. Our organization is always at risk for cyber attacks, as you said. How do you protect our network, and what do you see coming down the pike in terms of cyber threats?
A lot of that protection we get starts with notifications we receive from CISA and Homeland Security. I probably get half a dozen a day from them.
Wow.
A lot of those are based on specific threats or vulnerabilities within the network and give us an idea of what to look out for. We did get a specific threat assessment based on that Janesville, like a lot of big municipalities and swing states, are going to be vulnerable during the election.
Yeah.
They're going to be targeted because they are possibilities to disrupt the election process. So we're taking extra steps to keep an eye on that. We apply patches, we do due diligence, we keep an eye on things like spam, phishing, social engineering, and try to make sure that somebody's not trying to get a foothold into our system.
Yeah, and it's very sage point that you bring up social engineering, because another part of that is making sure our employees, so our coworkers, are up to date on recognizing cyber threats. What sort of education does the IT office provide our city team?
We have an online security vendor that helps us do specific cybersecurity training. We also use that same vendor to do an annual or biannual training event where we'll fake spam, or we'll send out something to see who falls for it. And that's really just to measure to see, is our training being effective? We're not trying to call anybody out or to put them in a hard spot, but we need to know whether it's being effective or not, or if we need to change our line of direction on how we want to educate somebody. But I think one of our biggest tools that we've used in doing that has been really the relationship between the COJ staff and the IT department. One of the benefits of having that good, strong relationship has been that they are not afraid to call and say, hey, I've got a suspicious email, I got a suspicious attachment, can you please take a look at it?
Yeah.
And that saves us a lot of time of having to do something after the fact.
Yeah.
And in turn, we give them as much information back on things that we see, threats coming through or possible spams or don't click on this, simple things like that. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, and I do want to underscore that kind of encouraging relationship, better safe than sorry, that I think
Yes.
your staff does such a great job of applying, because that really goes through to cybersecurity at every level. I mean, even at a personal level,
Hmm.
it's always imperative to exercise diligence and just take your time to suss things out. So that's good to hear that relationship is so strong. And with cybersecurity concerns in mind, Bryan, looking toward the future, what are some of the biggest challenges, but then also opportunities facing sort of municipal IT offices?
Well, I think as far as the challenges, it really is being able to keep a 24/7 eye on things. You almost need a small army of IT personnel to do that in real time and to do it 24/7. I think that's going to be a challenge for anybody, whether it's a municipality or an
Yeah.
organization. Um, a government has a unique where the targets on them is going to be more to be disruptive. They want to come in and disrupt whatever you're doing. And I think everybody could agree that disrupting services like fire department, police
Hmm.
department, public works, anything like that could be very devastating to a city, or even it could be deadly. I mean, in
Hmm.
certain events, if they're blocking a fire department from getting information in
Hmm.
real time, that could be devastating. So I think the advantage or the opportunity we have to look for is how can we use artificial intelligence to deal with the people committing these crimes
Yeah.
in real time and be just as fast to respond as they are to try to attack.
Yeah, and off script a bit, just thinking through that answer, Ryan, that's something I often get reminded of in the IT world, is that as these things develop, it's developing on bad actors are developing the technology as well as good guys are developing the technology, and it's always this kind of race, isn't it, to stay ahead of those
Absolutely,
people.
absolutely. Um, Cybercrime worldwide is about a $6 trillion cost to the
Jeez.
world. And the number of attacks, I could say on anybody's firewall, any preventive measures, you're probably seeing thousands of attacks per day. But you
Wow.
don't see them get through
Right.
because they're just low-level attacks. They're looking and probing to try to get into the system, and most of them are defeated.
Yeah.
But it's a monumentous uh, effort to try
Yeah.
and stop those every day.
Yeah, it is. And the volume, I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think that's a really, really great point to kind of underscore the importance of what you folks do and the service you provide, not only us as a city, but then the services we're able to provide to our community. And so, as we wrap up today, I want to thank you for stopping by the program, Bryan. I really do appreciate it. And also thank you and your team, because while you're often behind the scenes, you are truly an integral part of pretty much every bit of the city's operations. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
And I want to thank you, our residents and viewers, for tuning in today and for all you do to help make Janesville a community of choice to realize life's opportunities. I invite you to stay connected with the city by following us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, signing up for emergency notifications from the JPD via the Nixle app, and signing up to receive our weekly city press releases by visiting www.janesvillewi.gov/email lists. For Park Place Views in the city of Janesville, I'm Nick Faust. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next month.